If you're watching this video, a part of you already senses that your old self is ready to die. Not physically, but energetically. This awareness isn't originating from your conscious mind. It's a call from your quantum field, beckoning you towards your highest potential timeline. Right now, an invisible force field surrounds you, trapping you in familiar patterns of thought, behavior, and self-perception, patterns you've carried for years. Most people misunderstand the intersection of quantum physics and consciousness. This field isn't merely a mental construct. It's literally encoded into the very fabric of your reality at a subatomic level. Have you noticed how striving harder for change often results in stagnation? Have you pondered why some individuals achieve seemingly instantaneous life transformations while others grapple for decades with persistent issues in their relationships, finances, or personal well-being? The answer lies in what quantum physicists term observer collapse, a phenomenon that ancient mystics recognized as the death of the false self. The process is profoundly mysterious. There's a specific scientifically measurable moment when your consciousness shifts dimensions. Your old self, with all its limitations and ingrained patterns, begins to dissolve at the quantum level. This dissolution triggers an extraordinary response. The universe itself reorganizes around the emerging new you. Most people miss this transformative shift because they employ precisely the opposite approach to what quantum mechanics dictates. They attempt to layer new habits onto the old self, striving to improve an existing identity or upgrade outdated programming. This is akin to trying to tune a radio to a new station while simultaneously leaving the old frequency active. The Tibetan proverb, "You cannot pour new wine into old wineskins," perfectly encapsulates this truth, a wisdom modern neuroscience now substantiates. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research at the HeartMath Institute demonstrates that when we genuinely release our old identity, the brain literally rewires itself in real time. Neural pathways associated with outdated patterns begin to dissolve, paving the way for new networks aligned with our highest potential. However, self-help books often omit a crucial element. This quantum shift isn't gradual. It doesn't materialize through willpower or positive thinking alone. It occurs in a moment of complete surrender, what quantum physicists call quantum decoherence, the old you ceasing to exist as a probability within the quantum field. Are you among the rare individuals ready for this experience? The information to follow will challenge your understanding of change, identity, and the nature of reality itself. You're about to discover why letting go transcends spiritual philosophy. It's a quantum necessity for accessing higher dimensions of existence. Are you ready to cease fixing your old self and allow your true self to emerge from the limitless potential of the quantum field? To grasp why letting go is the sole path to quantum transformation, we must delve into the profound mysteries of consciousness. Every morning upon awakening, you don't merely open your eyes. You collapse infinite possibilities into a single reality, subconsciously choosing the version of yourself that will inhabit this dimension for the day. Most people remain unaware of a crucial aspect of this process. Each time you choose to be the same person you were yesterday, repeating familiar emotional patterns and making decisions based on limiting beliefs, you aren't merely maintaining the status quo. You actively create what quantum physicists describe as a probability wave collapse, locking yourself more deeply into that specific timeline. Consider this. Within the quantum field, all possibilities coexist simultaneously. The confident, abundant version of you, living a purpose-driven life, exists right now in a superposition state, alongside the version of you that feels stuck, fearful, and trapped in repetitive patterns. The act of observation, your consciousness selecting a reality to experience, makes one possibility tangible while the others fade into the background. Here, ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science converge harmoniously. The Vedic texts speak of Maya, the illusion of the separate self, while Buddhist teachings discuss anatta, the non-existence of a fixed identity. What these traditions grasped millennia ago, quantum mechanics is now scientifically proving in laboratories worldwide. Your identity, the person you believe yourself to be, isn't static. It's a collection of repetitive thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that have formed what neuroscientists call neural superhighways. These ingrained pathways in your brain automate certain patterns, making them unconscious and effortless. They feel so deeply ingrained, they seem synonymous with your very being. The transformative revelation lies in the fact that these neural superhighways, these patterns that seem permanent and immutable, exist only because you consistently choose them. Their power derives solely from your continued engagement, the energy you invest through your attention, emotions, and identity. The precise moment you cease identifying with these patterns, a miraculous quantum-level event occurs. The wave function sustaining that version of reality begins to decohere. The old you starts to dissolve, not destructively, but liberatingly. This explains why every spiritual tradition emphasizes death and rebirth, why the hero's journey invariably includes a moment of complete surrender, a descent into the unknown. It's not metaphorical, it's quantum mechanics in action. The old self must dissolve to allow the new self to emerge from the field of infinite potential. However, most people misunderstand this process. They believe letting go entails loss, the relinquishment of aspects of themselves. They approach it with fear, resistance, and a sense of deprivation. But what if your perceived self is actually the smallest, most limited version of your true self? What you're letting go of isn't your true self. It's the prison concealing it. You're not relinquishing power. You're releasing the illusions blocking it. You're not surrendering your identity. You're releasing the false identity that has prevented your authentic self from shining through. This is merely the beginning. The following revelations will detail this quantum process, explain why it often feels challenging, and most importantly, guide you in navigating it with grace and trust. Understanding the deeper mechanics of consciousness transformation reveals that letting go isn't an action, it's a permission. Take a moment, pause, feel the energy flowing through your body as you absorb these words. Something is shifting, isn't it? This isn't imagination, it's your quantum field recalibrating. You're experiencing what physicists call quantum entanglement with higher possibilities. The information you've received isn't merely entering your conscious mind, it's activating dormant potentials in your DNA, awakening cellular memories of your true self. Beyond the limitations you've accepted as reality, feel that subtle expansion in your chest, that gentle release of something long held tight. This is the onset of decoherence, old patterns losing their grip on your energy field. Your nervous system is attuning to a higher frequency version of yourself, existing beyond the confines of your self-perception. You are on sacred ground. This moment of recognition, this stirring of possibility, this gentle opening to something greater. Ancient traditions would call this the threshold. Modern neuroscience terms it neuroplasticity activation. But in essence, it's your soul remembering its true nature. Don't try to intellectually grasp it. Let your being absorb it, your cells receive it, your quantum field integrate it. This is preparing you for what follows, deeper revelations that will guide you in working with this transformative energy rather than against it. Dr. Amit Goswami, a quantum physicist and consciousness researcher, has dedicated decades to studying what he terms quantum consciousness. His research at the University of Oregon revealed something extraordinary. When we truly let go of our identification with old patterns, our brainwaves synchronize with what he calls the quantum self, a higher dimensional aspect of consciousness that transcends the limitations of space and time. This isn't solely a modern scientific discovery. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, written over 1,000 years ago, precisely details the stages of consciousness during what it calls the bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. Remarkably, its descriptions of ego dissolution and identity transformation mirror what neuroscientists observe in brain scans during deep meditative states. Dr. Eben Alexander, a Harvard neurosurgeon who experienced a near-death experience, describes his journey into what he calls the core, a realm of consciousness where individual identity dissolves into pure awareness. His scientific mind struggled to comprehend his conscious experience, a state of being where relinquishing the self led to an expansion into something infinitely larger. The ancient Sufi mystic Rumi wrote, "You were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life?" He understood. And quantum consciousness research is now proving that our limited identity isn't who we are. It's who we've been conditioned to believe we are. In the Hindu tradition, moksha represents liberation from the cycle of suffering. It doesn't arise from acquiring something new, but from releasing the illusion of separateness, the false belief that we are limited, isolated beings. Modern physicists like Carlo Rovelli and Sean Carroll are discovering that separateness is indeed an illusion at the quantum level. Everything is interconnected, a unified field of consciousness expressing itself in infinite forms. Zen Master Dogen taught that enlightenment is dropping off body and mind, not destroying them, but releasing our identification with them as the totality of who we are. Recent studies in consciousness research show that during profound letting go experiences, activity in the brain's default mode network, the area responsible for self-referential thinking, significantly decreases, while areas associated with unity consciousness become hyperactive. Crucially, these traditions and scientific observations change our approach to transformation. The letting go process isn't random. It follows specific laws, patterns, and stages that can be understood and navigated wisely. 3 years ago at 2 a.m., I sat crying in my car outside a 24-hour diner, tears welling from the depths of my soul. I had just walked away from everything that defined my perceived self, my career, my relationship, my entire sense of identity, everything that provided security, success, and social acceptance. For months, I felt a strange pull, an inner knowing that my life was misaligned with my evolving self. But whenever I considered change, fear overwhelmed me. What will people think? How will I survive? You're throwing your life away. That night in the parking lot, a profound realization dawned. Those weren't my fears. They belonged to the old version of myself, the version that craved external validation, believed security stemmed from controlling outcomes, and equated identity with job, relationships, and possessions. In that moment of complete breakdown, something extraordinary happened. I stopped trying to figure things out, manage the situation, or remain strong. I simply let go completely, surrendering to the unknown with every fiber of my being. What followed defied all my expectations of how life works. Within weeks, unimaginable opportunities emerged. People aligned with my authentic path entered my life. Resources materialized almost magically. But the most significant change wasn't external. It was internal. I began experiencing life from a completely different frequency. Anxiety transformed into excitement, limitation into infinity, separateness into deep connection with something vast and loving. Then I understood the mystics' concept of death and rebirth, the spiritual tradition's emphasis on surrender as the path to liberation, and what quantum physicists mean when they say observation changes reality. The old me didn't evolve into the new me. The old me dissolved, and the new me emerged from an entirely different level of consciousness. This isn't just my story. It's the narrative of every soul that has undergone true transformation. And if you're watching this, it's calling to become your story too. My experience in that parking lot, the quantum field's revelation during my complete surrender, is what I've dedicated my life to sharing. The path isn't about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you've always been, beneath layers of conditioning and fear. And that remembering always begins with letting go. If my story resonated with you, if you felt that stirring of possibility in your own quantum field, then you're ready to delve deeper into these mysteries. Subscribe to this channel. Here we explore the profound quantum reflections of consciousness itself, diving into the hidden mechanics of reality that most people never uncover. This is where seekers become finders, possibilities become realities, and the quantum reflex reveals your true nature. How do you recognize this quantum shift in your own life? The universe communicates through signs, synchronicities, and subtle shifts in the fabric of reality itself. Most people miss these signals, searching for dramatic, obvious changes. The first sign is what I call divine dissatisfaction, restlessness with things that once satisfied you. Your job might be fine, but it no longer inspires you. Your relationships might be comfortable, yet uninspiring. Your daily routines feel empty, even without any tangible changes. This isn't depression, it's your soul outgrowing its current container. You might find yourself questioning things you never questioned before. Why do I do this job? Why do I live here? Why do I spend time with these people? These aren't rebellious thoughts. It's your consciousness preparing for expansion. Another potent sign is what quantum physicists call reality glitches. You might repeatedly see number sequences, 1111, 333, 555, think of someone just before they contact you, or have dreams that feel more real than waking life. These aren't coincidences. They indicate your consciousness operating at a higher dimensional frequency. Pay attention to your body's responses to people, places, and situations. Your old self might have ignored these signals, pushed through discomfort, or rationalized staying in misaligned circumstances. But as you attune to higher frequencies, your body becomes a precise guidance system. Expansion feels light, energizing, and spacious. Contraction feels heavy, draining, and restrictive. You might also observe old patterns amplifying before they dissolve, what consciousness researcher David Hawkins called the final purgation. Your habitual ways of thinking and reacting might become more intense, obvious, and uncomfortable. This isn't regression. It's these patterns losing their unconscious hold and becoming visible for release. Another profound sign is the appearance of quantum mentors, people entering your life who reflect your highest potential. Books appear at precisely the right moments. Conversations feel divinely orchestrated. Opportunities arise that align with your deepest values and authentic gifts. The universe begins to reorganize around your emerging truth. But the sign confirming you're in the deepest part of the quantum shift is what mystics call the dark night of the soul. Everything that once gave your life meaning feels empty. Everything you relied on for security feels unstable. Everything you turn to for identity feels alien. This isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough. Your consciousness expanding beyond the old self's boundaries. It's the caterpillar dissolving in the cocoon before emerging as a butterfly, the most sacred and necessary part of transformation. However, there's something I haven't yet shared, information that fundamentally changes how you navigate this quantum shift. There's a specific point in the letting go process where most people turn back, a threshold that, once crossed, makes the transformation irreversible. You'll face a choice that determines whether you complete the shift or remain trapped between two worlds. Ancient alchemists called this the nigredo, the blackening, the stage where everything must dissolve before rebirth. Modern neuroscience identifies this as the neural gap, the space between the death of old neural pathways and the birth of new ones. Quantum physicists recognize it as the collapse point, the moment one reality ends and another begins. But this moment doesn't occur just once, it happens multiple times during transformation, each time at a deeper level, requiring greater faith, trust, and willingness to embrace the unknown. There's something else, something that dictates not only whether you successfully navigate this quantum shift, but also its speed, grace, and the completeness with which you embody your emerging self. This involves a principle hidden in the deepest teachings of every mystical tradition, encoded in the most advanced theories of quantum mechanics, and reflected in the transformative narratives of everyone who has successfully journeyed from the old self to the authentic self. What is this principle? This secret that distinguishes those who successfully transform from those stuck in between. This key that unlocks your highest timeline. I'll reveal it shortly. But first, understand precisely what happens in your brain, body, and energy field when you truly let go. Once you see the mechanism, the process, you'll never fear letting go again. When you truly release the old self, when you cease trying to maintain, protect, and improve the limited version of who you think you are, your nervous system undergoes what neuroscientists call coherent reorganization. Every system in your body begins functioning at a higher level of efficiency and harmony. First, your stress response system recalibrates completely. The constant fight-or-flight response from trying to control outcomes, protect the ego, and maintain a false sense of security begins to dissolve. Cortisol levels normalize, heart rate variability increases, your immune system strengthens. More than that, you experience a profound inner peace, independent of external circumstances. Remember my story about that night in the parking lot? The months that followed were the most peaceful of my life, not because everything was perfect, but because I stopped fighting reality, forcing outcomes, and depleting my energy, maintaining an inauthentic identity. Your cognitive function also transforms dramatically. When you're no longer expending vast mental energy, maintaining old patterns, defending the ego, and suppressing authentic impulses, your mind becomes incredibly clear, creative, and intuitive. Previously insurmountable problems suddenly have obvious solutions. Creative ideas flow effortlessly. Decision-making simplifies because you're aligned with your truth, not your fears. Dr. Bruce Lipton's research on epigenetics shows that changing your beliefs about who you are literally alters gene expression in your body. Genes associated with stress, aging, and disease become less active. Genes associated with vitality, regeneration, and health become more active. You're not just changing your psychology, you're changing your biology. The most profound benefit is what spiritual traditions call self-realization, the direct experience of your true nature, beyond all conditioning, limitations, and narratives about who you're supposed to be. This isn't an intellectual concept. It's a living reality experienced in every moment. You begin to live from what mystics call beginner's mind, a state of constant freshness, wonder, and openness to possibilities. You stop approaching life from the perspective of past wounds and future fears. You respond to each moment from presence, authenticity, and love. Your relationships transform because you're no longer seeking anything from others to complete yourself. You're not looking for external validation, security, or identity. You love from fullness, not emptiness, and give from abundance, not scarcity. Just as in my own journey, opportunities perfectly aligned with your authentic gifts and deepest values begin to emerge. Money flows more easily because you're no longer blocking abundance with limiting beliefs about worthiness. Health improves because you're no longer creating illness through internal conflict. Creativity explodes because you're no longer censoring authentic expression. Most importantly, you develop what I call quantum trust, an unshakable faith in the intelligence of life itself. You know, at the deepest level, that everything is happening for your highest good, that the universe is conspiring to help you fulfill your highest potential, and that letting go isn't about loss, it's about gain. Pause. What if everything you've been taught about change, growth, and becoming your best self has been backward? What if the path to your highest potential isn't about adding, doing, or becoming more, but about releasing, surrendering, and letting go of everything inauthentic? What if your struggles, resistance, and the perceived impossibility of lasting change have all been because you've been trying to transform while clinging to the very identity that needs releasing? Consider your own life. How much energy are you expending trying to manage, control, and improve circumstances while remaining essentially the same person? How much effort do you invest in changing your external world while keeping your internal world unchanged? What would happen if you stopped? What would happen if you simply let go? Not of your responsibilities, your care for others, or your authentic desires and dreams, but of the need to be who you think you're who you're supposed to be. What if the person you're striving to become is actually a diminished, more limited version of your inherent self? What if, beneath the conditioning, fear, and limiting narratives, resides a version of you that is already complete, already perfect, already intrinsically connected to boundless intelligence and love? This isn't mere philosophical conjecture. This is the consistent reported experience of every mystic throughout history. This is the reality that quantum physics is increasingly pointing toward. This transformative potential unlocks the moment you cease trying to improve a false self and instead allow your true self to emerge. A caterpillar doesn't strive to become a better caterpillar. It doesn't engage in caterpillar therapy, read self-help books for caterpillars, or set caterpillar goals. It completely surrenders to the transformative process, allowing its entire being to dissolve, thus enabling something entirely new to emerge, something that always represented its potential, yet remained unrealized as long as it clung to its caterpillar identity. What if your struggles, dissatisfaction, and deep yearning for something more aren't indicators of personal flaws? What if they signal something profoundly positive? A soul unwilling to settle for anything less than its full potential. What if this very moment marks the commencement of your own quantum leap? What if reading these words, considering these possibilities, sensing this truth, is your consciousness preparing for the most beautiful transformation of your life? The only question is, are you ready to trust the process? Are you ready to relinquish your perceived self and uncover who you've always been? However, before we proceed, I must share something crucial. What I've presented thus far serves only as a foundational framework. It's the preparation for something far deeper, more profound, and more transformative than most people can ever imagine. The levels of this quantum shift extend beyond mere personal transformation. Dimensions of consciousness open up upon completing this process of letting go, connecting you to abilities, insights, and experiences most consider impossible. I'm referring to what the ancients called siddhi, the inherent abilities that surface when consciousness is no longer constrained by identification with the separate self. I'm speaking of what modern physicists are uncovering about the nature of consciousness and its role in shaping reality at the quantum level. In the following videos, I'll guide you into territories few are prepared to explore. I'll demonstrate what happens when the quantum shift is complete. When you fully embody your authentic self, operating from what mystics term unity consciousness, you'll discover that consciousness doesn't merely observe reality, it literally creates it. You'll learn quantum field techniques enabling manifestation from a wholly different level of being. You'll comprehend why synchronicities increase exponentially, intuitive abilities amplify dramatically, and your presence elevates the consciousness of those around you. But this is crucial. These aren't exceptional powers possessed by a select few. They're inherent abilities that become accessible when you no longer expend energy maintaining a false identity. They are the birthright of consciousness itself, available to anyone who completes the journey from ego self to authentic self. The question remains, how far are you willing to go? How deeply are you willing to delve? How completely are you willing to relinquish everything you believe about who you are and what's possible? Because what follows will challenge every assumption you've held about the nature of reality, the power of consciousness, and your role as a conscious creator in this quantum universe. As we conclude our time together, I leave you with something the quantum field has been subtly communicating throughout this video, something your soul already knows, though your mind may not yet fully grasp. The version of you who began watching this video is not the same as the version receiving these words now. A shift has occurred, something has awakened, something has been activated at a cellular, energetic, and quantum level. The change might feel subtle, barely registering in your conscious mind, but your quantum field knows. Your higher self knows. The universe knows. And herein lies the mystery I wish to impart. The fact that you found this video, that you persevered until this moment, that these words resonate within you, none of this is coincidental. Your quantum field has been orchestrating this moment for far longer than you realize. Forces, intelligences, aspects of yourself that transcend the limitations of time and space have been guiding you towards this recognition, this remembering, this moment of choosing between the old you and the true you. The question that will linger in your consciousness long after this video concludes is this: what if the quantum shift isn't something that will happen to you, but something already happening through you? What if every moment of dissatisfaction, every glimmer of possibility, every recognition of truth has been preparing you for a transformation already underway? What if letting go isn't an action you take, but something you are? What if the old you was never truly real, merely a transient dream, and who you truly are is the dreamer awakening? The answers aren't found in further contemplation, analysis, or intellectualization. They reside in the space of pure awareness that emerges when you cease striving to know and embrace the willingness to not know. They are found in the silence between thoughts, in the peace that transcends understanding, in the love that predates all experience. This is where the true journey commences. If you've remained with me until this point, if you've allowed these words to penetrate not just your intellect but your very being, then you know something irreversible has been set in motion. The quantum shift we've discussed is no longer a mere concept. It's a living reality unfolding in your life. The you who awoke this morning operated from one level of consciousness. The you receiving these words now possesses access to dimensions of possibility previously unavailable. This isn't metaphorical, it's quantum mechanical, but this is paramount. This is just the beginning. The activation that occurred during our shared time is akin to planting a seed. Whether that seed blossoms into the full flourishing of your authentic self depends on your actions in the moments, hours, and days to come. The quantum field is calling you deeper. Your highest timeline beckons you forward. The version of yourself existing beyond all limitations is poised to fully emerge into this reality. This is why I've created a series of videos to guide you through each stage of this transformation. Each video builds upon the preceding one, leading you deeper into the mystery, higher into the realm of possibilities, and further into the truth of who you truly are. The next video will unveil specific techniques, enabling you to navigate the quantum shift with grace instead of struggle. You'll discover ancient practices that modern neuroscience has proven can literally rewire your brain in real time. You'll learn the precise steps that transform letting go from a daunting leap into the unknown into a joyful dance with infinite possibility. Right now, on your screen, you see videos representing different facets of your quantum transformation. Each contains keys unlocking various dimensions of your awakening, revealing different pieces of the puzzle of becoming fully yourself. Choose the video that resonates most strongly. Trust that intuition. It's not random. It's your quantum field guiding you toward the next perfect step in your evolution. And as you click on that video, as you continue this journey of self-discovery, remember this: you're not simply watching videos about transformation. You're actively participating in the evolution of consciousness itself. You're part of a quantum field of beings awakening to their true nature, and in doing so, helping to awaken the entire planet. Welcome to the quantum reflex. Welcome to the reflection of your highest self. Welcome to the beginning of the most beautiful journey of your life. The next level of your awakening is just one click away.